Okay, so hi everybody. It's Lori White from the Greater Providence Chamber of Commerce. And on behalf of all of us at the Chamber, we'd like to welcome you to today's webcast, which is really an interesting one and one that I'm really looking forward to. And it's about the issue of control and what's holding us back and ways that we can sort of use this time period to reboot ourselves, both physically and emotionally, and the stuff around us, so that we can be better prepared to come out of this period of quarantine in a much better and stronger place. So in order to do that, I think it's fair to say that a lot of us have accumulated a lot of stuff, a lot of junk, and whether that's emotional or physical or anywhere in between, this is a time to really sort through it and to really think about things in a new way and a new light. So we have two experts with us today who are going to share their long-tested tips and tricks about how to clear out your physical and mental closets. And they are two folks that have a tremendous grasp of these topics and a long track record of being coaches to business professionals. So that is why we're all here today. So we'd like to introduce both Lisa Griffith. And Lisa is with Griffith Productivity Solutions, and she has been a coach and a mentor and a teacher of this subject for over 12 years. So she has seen a lot in terms of stuff. So I can't wait to hear what Lisa has to say about the topic at hand. And we also will hear from Beth Carter of Beth Carter Enterprises. And Beth is an internationally known trainer and coach, an executive headhunter, and she has been in business for over 29 years. And she has a lot of interesting insights and tips and thoughts that she is going to share with us as well. So we're going to start off with Lisa. And at this point, I will turn it over to you, Lisa. So tell us, how do we clear the decks?
Thank you, Lori. Well, as a productivity and business organizing consultant, a lot of what I do revolves around the entire person's life. It's not just the physical clutter, but it's the emotional clutter and the brain clutter. But today I'm going to really start with the dealing with the physical clutter, and I'm going to let Beth take over and handle the other part of that, because a lot of what I do when I start working with clients is to clear out that physical stuff that may be getting in the way. I have a favorite blogger that I love to read. His name is Joshua Becker. He writes a blog called Becoming Minimalist. While I'm not necessarily a hard, full-fledged minimalist, I love reading the stuff that he has to say. And a blog he wrote about a week or two ago, after the pandemic started, it's a couple of weeks ago now, he talked about dumping the jetsam. He compared our lives to a ship or a boat that's sailing along, and it's like your life. You know, you're sailing along pretty comfortably, and then you begin to take on stuff. You may take on stuff, you may take on commitments in your calendar, you may take on relationships and emotional stuff, and then all of a sudden your vessel is floundering. And you know, he talks about during the pandemic, it can cause people to have this, I want to hold on to stuff, I want to gather stuff around me, and it can cause some hoarding issues that we've all seen if you've tried to find toilet paper or hand sanitizer in the store. And he suggests we should have the opposite approach, that we should take this time to think about what the non-essential cargo is that we can remove from our lives to lighten our ship and stabilize things. Or as he likes to say in another one of his memes, never underestimate the importance of abandoning crap you don't need. And that's one of my favorite philosophies. So today, Beth and I are going to hope to help lighten your load a little bit Maybe do a little spring cleaning, both in your spaces and in your brain, because May 1st is Friday. Good time to do some spring cleaning to help clear things that might be getting in your way. Now, a number of years ago, I put together a system to simplify and organize a way to help my clients clear out their physical spaces. I called it, it's a 5-step process. I called it Clear Your Closet. And it's not just for closets, it applies to any physical space in your home or in your office, especially in your workspace. And most of us, I should say a lot of us right now, our home space is our workspace. We've got to think about dumping the jetsam that's getting in our way and help us clear the decks for better productivity. And in some cases, open our minds up to a fresh start. 5-step process. I've broken it down to try and help clarify and simplify. Now, the first letter, C, is claim it and name it. And that's a little cheesy, I know, but I love that, because what I want you to do is I want you to take every area of your home, and we're going to talk about our homes now because most of us are in our homes and not in our offices, but it does apply to your office as well. Every area that you physically inhabit needs a designated purpose. Now, these days, some of the spaces in our homes may be serving double duty as far as their function goes, right? You may have your kids set up on the dining room table doing schoolwork. You may be, sitting on your bed with your laptop on the nightstand and using that as your home office if you're not accustomed to working from home. But for the most part, when I mostly go into offices these days, but when I used to go into people's homes, I saw a lot of spaces that were just undesignated as far as what their purpose was. We had kitchen stuff in the family room, and we had office stuff in the kitchen and paperwork all over the dining room table. And I want you to think about every space in your home or in your office as designating it, claiming it as a certain space for certain things, and only keeping items that fit that designation. Whether it's your desktop at work or in your home office, right now that's probably the most important space to keep free and clear of clutter, and only have things in it or on it that relate to your work. Or in your home, if it's a closet designed for sports equipment, claim it for sports equipment, name it, and only keep the sports equipment in that closet. Don't let it become a catch-all for a bunch of other stuff. Clothes that you wear regularly, not the stuff you put away in the attic, if spring ever really does come, but the stuff you wear regularly. Clothes closet, not storage for other stuff. Office supply closet. That's the space either in your office or in your home that is designated to play your office supplies. Kitchen closet. It doesn't matter what it is, but I want you to claim the space for the stuff that's going to belong there, and only keep the stuff that you have decided belongs there in it. The L is for love your lifestyle. Now, a lot of us live in the past when it comes to the possessions that we keep around us. Stuff from hobbies we used to enjoy, but we don't do anymore, or sports we used to play that maybe we can't play anymore because we had a knee replacement. Our grown children's stuff. Our children move out and they leave all their stuff with us. Appliances we used to use. I can't tell you how many unused bread makers I've seen sitting on kitchen counters covered with a layer of dust. Old paperwork and files. I see the lot in the offices that I work in. There's a statistic that says we only retrieve 20% of the paper that we file. Think about that. That means that probably about 80% of the stuff that you shove in that filing cabinet is probably never going to see the light of day again, which means that, do we really need to keep it? Doesn't mean you're going to throw away 80% of your stuff, but it is food for thought. Outdated electronics. We buy a new cell phone, the old cell phone gets thrown in a drawer. Maybe we keep it as a backup, but if there's 4 other old cell phones in there, maybe you don't need that many backups. Clothes that don't fit anymore. Oh, I'm going to lose that 10 pounds someday. me tell you, folks, someday never comes. Maybe you're closed for a profession that you're not in anymore. If this is you in the corporate world, do you suit up to go to the office, at least before all this happened? Is this you suiting up for the corporate world? Or is this more like you working from home in your comfies, in your sweats and in your jeans? I have a lot of clients who left the corporate world and either started their own business or are working in a different situation where they don't need to suit up every day, yet all of that stuff is still sitting in their closets because they haven't acknowledged what their lifestyle is today. So part of getting rid of the physical clutter in our lives and letting go of the past is to acknowledge the way we live our lives today. Love your lifestyle the way it is today, not the way it was 10 years ago, and not what we hope it might be in 10 years when I lose those 20 pounds and those pants that were in style 3 years ago are still going to be in style. Let it go. Acknowledge the reality of today. The E is for evaluate and eliminate. Now, once you've decided to acknowledge the reality of your lifestyle as it is today, it's time to evaluate what fits with it. I always ask my clients 3 questions. Do you use it? Do you need it? Do you love it? If you can't give me an answer to at least a yes to at least one of those questions, then you're in a situation where you might be able to eliminate some of this stuff from your spaces. Again, you'll have to acknowledge today's realities. You need to evaluate if it's still loved, needed, or used. If it's not, it needs to be eliminated. What doesn't fit, what doesn't work, what's out of date, what's out of style, what's duplicated, or what's just getting in the way. Trying to clear the decks and dump the cargo so that the ship is a little bit lighter. The next letter, of course, is arrange. Once you've figured out what's going to stay and you have claimed a space for it, you have to arrange like with like. In other words, you got to take your stuff and you're going to sort it like things together. You know, if you're working in a master closet, for example, you're going to sort jeans with jeans or work clothes with work clothes or sweaters with sweaters. The categories are really up to you, but you have to arrange like with like, and then you've got to assign them a place to live. You've got to assign them a home. Having a home for everything really makes it a lot easier to find the stuff that you're looking for. If you're wasting a lot of time looking for stuff because nothing really has a home or things aren't getting put back in the home that you've assigned to them, you're not only wasting a lot of time, but you're adding a lot of unneeded stress to your life. So arrange it like with like, and then assign it, whether it's important paperwork that you need to keep at your fingertips, a desktop file box, a small one that you can carry around with you, particularly in the situation if you're working from home, where you can keep the most important papers, the papers that you need to get at every day. Very practical place to assign a home for those papers. Whether it's shoes in your closet, assign a particular set of shelves for them. Supplies in your desk drawer. If you go looking for the scissors and the scissors have a home, you never have to waste time looking for them again because hopefully they'll be in a home. The clothing in your closet or information or supplies perhaps in your office that you need to get your hands on a regular basis. Assign it a home, and then you got to establish a habit of getting things back to where their homes are after they've been used. And I think that might be one of the hardest habits that a lot of us struggle with, that, oh, sure, we know where the stuff goes, but getting it all back into the place where it's supposed to live so that you can find it next time, or so that the people that you're living with can find it next time, I think makes it a lot easier, saves you a lot of time, reduces a lot of stress. And the last step is R, which is revisit and rework. No organizational system lasts forever. And why doesn't it last forever? Because circumstances in your life change. So what you need to do is you need to revisit these homes and these acclaimed places and these systems that you put into place and take stock periodically. You need to, revisit your space, reevaluate what's still working, what's not working, what do you still need, what do you still use? Do I still love this, or can this go? Is this just taking up space? What's working, what's not? And then you need to rework your organizational systems to accommodate any changes that are happening in your life. So again, they reflect your life as you live it today. You have to acknowledge the current realities of your life, and you got to open up space for change. I always say to my clients, you know, I can give you a really good organizational system, but I can't give you a magic organizational system. I can't give you an organizational system that's going to take care of itself. I'm not like, if anybody remembers the old movie, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, where the sorcerer waves his magic wand around and the dishes jump up and do themselves and the bed makes itself and everything gets put away all by themselves. I can't do that. There's no magic system. There's a good system that requires some maintenance and some revisiting on occasion. Now, again, once you have worked through all the clutter and decided what's going to go where, what's going to stay, what's going to go, we need to look at more than just the physical clutter that might be holding us back. Eleanor Brown says, clutter is not just physical stuff. It's old ideas, toxic relationships, and bad habits. Clutter is anything that does not support your better self. And Beth is going to talk about the stuff that doesn't support your better self.
So thank you, Lisa. So I'm playing off of Lisa's clear model. To clear your mental closets first, though, you have to be present. And that's the issue right now is we've got so much going on in our heads that even though we want to spend the time to think about, you know, our future, our goals, our dreams, we need to be present. And I did an exercise. I also teach at Bryant University, and there's a huge staircase in one of the main buildings. And I made all my students during break walk up that staircase and be present. You know, feel the step on, you know, feel the marble on their step, you know, what did they see, all of that, you know, not be on your phones, not talking to someone else, you know, really trying to be present, getting up that one flight of stairs. And they found it to be a very hard exercise because of course your mind goes in a number of different directions. Think about your shower in the morning. Do you smell the shampoo in the morning when you lather up your hair? Do you, or are you thinking about the 100 things you have to do? So to really clear your mental closets, the first thing you're really going to have to do is be present and dedicate the time to do that. Next. So to start, you have to figure out you have to clarify what's important to you. And back a long time ago, I was doing a workshop and each of these different pieces were in separate buckets. And one man challenged me and said, I disagree with you. I feel that fun should be an aspect of every single thing you do. Meaning if you're going to go work out and feel better for your body, it should be fun. Even earning money to some extent should have some fun element. Because the thing is that if there isn't that motivating or fun element, over time, you're probably not going to continue with it. So the thing is that you have to think about, first of all, what is important to you? And, this is a great time, of course, to reach out to friends and family. Have you talked to, your BFF in a while? Or have you reached out to that aunt that lives far away or whomever it may be? Even your physical surroundings. I mean, right now, a lot of us are starting to work on our yards, at least I am, and trying to make our physical surroundings even better. But the problem is we might put goals into each of these buckets and we get overwhelmed very quickly. So trying to understand, really what we really want to accomplish, prioritize that, but also make sure that there's some kind of fun element to it. to really to motivate you to move forward. Next. So the other thing that you have to consider is letting go. And of course, this is, from the movie Frozen. But our limiting beliefs are really very powerful. And the thing is that it will stop you from reaching your goals, your dreams, your wishes. And you have to figure out where it's coming from first. So I had a colleague that said that her mother told her that she could not be a really good professional and leader in her company and also be a good mother. So she struggled when she was at work that she wasn't taking care of her child and vice versa. More recently, I did an exercise with some people on negotiations, which I do a lot in negotiations. And one of the people in the class said, I struggle with negotiations because I was always raised to respect my elders. And if I'm negotiating, I feel that I'm disrespecting them. So you have to figure out what is holding you back. Are there other things that you might not even realize, but after a while, you might just start to see some patterns. The other thing is that when you hide behind a limiting belief, you can use it as an excuse. Oh, I don't want to negotiate this because it's an older person and, I was told to respect my elders. But we all have certain limiting beliefs that we need to figure out, is it something that, has validity to it? Maybe there is some reasons why we don't do what we do. But in a lot of cases, it's something either we were taught as children or we learned along the way. Another one is, will friends treat me differently if I make a lot more money than they do? And there was a whole episode on Friends recently that covered that. So it's interesting to kind of figure out, what is holding us back and how do we break that? Because if we don't break it, we're never going to move forward. And it goes back to being present too, because a lot of times we hide behind this limiting belief and we're not really being present. We're really living in the past. Next. So the thing is cleaning out your mental closets is tough. It's like running a marathon. You get to mile like 18 and how do you push through to get to the end of the finish line? It's not easy. The thing is that if you go back to the slide about clarifying what you expect, and what you want to do, let's say one of the things might be to write a book. I've heard of many clients say, I'd love to write a book. So we walk through the process of writing a book. It's not so much coming up with the idea. They probably have the idea. But what we do discuss is the fact that you're going to spend many hours by yourself, even going to a coffee shop or your office or whatever, or a blog series. I have other clients who own their own companies and they want to do like a blog series to get their, to promote their business, which is, I've had blog series. But it takes time, and it takes time by yourself. So people who are more extroverted may have a really tough time, working through doing that. Even if they're in a coffee shop, with their headphones on, they're still technically alone. So the other thing to think about too is maybe getting some kind of accountability partner or coach to help you stay on track. Maybe even just initially, you don't necessarily need them for a long term, or maybe you do. But the idea is that if you're accountable to someone else, it will help you push through. If you're looking to run a marathon, that would be another aspect to it is you have a running partner or someone that you can talk to about, at mile 17, I start to get shin splints. But you have to take the time to kind of figure out what's happening here. Another way to think about this too is having a gratitude notebook. So at the end of the day, writing maybe 5 good things that have happened during the course of the day to remind yourself that you are moving forward. We tend to focus on the negative. If you look at the news, 99% of the day, the program is all negative. That's why I'm a big Lester Holt fan, because at the end of the day, he has the segment on inspiring America. So at least it ends on a positive note. Lisa and I could both give really good presentations, but maybe there's one tiny little thing we did wrong and we'll harp on the negative. So we really have to think through, what it is that is, that could be a limiting belief too, that we anticipate that there's going to be one tiny little thing that we're going to do wrong. So that gratitude notebook is very simple to do. You don't have to write long sentences or anything like that. And it could be something really simple. One time I was at Stop and Shop and the parking lot was pretty crowded. And I went to pull into a parking space and there was a shopping cart. So before I started to pull out, a gentleman was sitting in his car, I guess maybe waiting for his significant other. And he jumped out of the car. And by the way, it was raining. He jumped out of his car and he moved the shopping cart so I could put the car in the spot. And I can't tell you how many times I have mentioned this man in a lot of my workshops for that reason. So when you're cleaning out your mental closets, you have to think too that there's a lot of good things going on. Even in this pandemic, there are some very positive things. And that can help you in cleaning out your mental closets, because what you're trying to do is get away, as Lisa said, get rid of all the crap, and getting rid of all the stuff. Well, let's get rid of the negativity too. If you think about the top 5 people you spend the most time with, the number 1 person is yourself. But if those other 4 people are very negative, eventually it's like, the little black cloud's going to come over and exude into your body and you become more negative. And they've proven this in studies. So also, as you're going through this mental closet process, maybe there's some people that really energize you and you need to be around those types of people versus people that are always, downers. And by the time you walk away, you're tired, you're stressed, you're all of this stuff. Maybe you need to get a new circle of influence, maybe a new network of people. Maybe you need to join different organizations for that reason and be around those energetic people. I have another colleague, Lisa's really good at it too, but I have another colleague that every time I'm around her, and she's barely 5 feet tall, every time I spend time with her, I walk away and I feel like so fantastic. And I tell her this all the time. I feel like, I got the muscles going on. I can accomplish anything because she makes me feel so good about myself. And it's not that she's necessarily complimenting me or anything like that. It's just the energy she puts out. So, and also the other thing with this is we're going to have good days and we're going to have bad days. But as a coach, both Lisa and I will tell you, you might take 2 steps forward and then 1 step back or half a step back. And then but you're still moving in the right direction. And you have to think about the fact that nobody is perfect. So you also have to, give up a little bit and don't be so hard on yourself. And believe me, I'm very hard on myself. And I've learned that it's not good for me. It adds to my stress level and it adds to the junk in my mental closets. Next. So you gotta act on what feels right. Okay, so you've gone through all this process. Now, what do you want to really act on? The thing is that we're too vague and we don't do the things we should do. So we have to start right from the beginning, identifying a goal and make it what they call a SMART goal. And if you're not familiar with it, you can Google it. But what the SMART goal stands for is specific, measurable, actionable, timely, and results oriented. So as an example, I'm not a fan of New Year's resolutions. I like the Tuesday after Labor Day. It's like that new yellow pencil mentality with my Partridge Family lunchbox. Okay, so I'm dating myself. So the point I'm trying to make is that you've got to, when you just set a goal, you have to make it at a time that it works for you. That's why New Year's for a lot of people, it doesn't work. But for me to sit here and say, I want to grow my business doesn't really mean much. I want to grow my business by 20%. That's better. I want to grow my business by 20% within 6 months, and I'm going to do this, this, and this by these steps. So I have actionable steps within the goal. That is the way you're going to achieve what you want to achieve. And you can use this in your personal life as well as your professional life. But the thing is, you've got to develop a strategy. Another thing that people don't think about with their mental closets is their behaviors. So if you've never taken the DISC assessment, it's an online behavioral tool, and it answers the question, how you behave. So if you are not really self-aware and don't understand how you behave, then you also can't be sensitive to how others behave and build a better relationship. I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are willing to help you. I mean, as a recruiter too for 30 years, believe me, I need help from people. And I've learned over time that I have to approach different people different ways. Some are introverts, some are extroverts, some are task-oriented, some are people-oriented. But the more I'm aware of how I behave and become more sensitive to how others behave, I can act on that, and that makes it work better. The other piece that I want to say is that we make these strategies, right? You know, I'm going to grow my business, as I said, maybe I put a whole plan together. But again, if I don't have some way to keep accountable, the problem is I take it, I shove it on the shelf, and then you need Lisa 6 months later to take it off the shelf and throw it out. So you have to really think about, if I'm going to spend the time and energy to do this, I need to figure out how I'm going to make this work. So the first thing I would suggest is write it down. Write it all down. They've proven that if you actually write down your goal, you have a better likelihood of achieving it than if you just type it. The second piece of that is maybe getting a vision board. So a vision board is a picture of what you're looking for. So in my case, at one point, I wanted the Volvo C70 convertible. This goes back 15 years. And I had a picture of it in my office. So every time I thought about maybe spending money, you know, on something else, or I just didn't feel like working in my business that day as much as I should, I kept going back to that Volvo. And I'm like, you know what? I want this car. And I still have this car. It's 12 years old now. So my point I'm trying to make is having that visual helps you even better achieve your goals. And then the last piece of it is tell others. Not for them to harp on you and say, well, you didn't go out running today, or you didn't do this, you didn't do that. But more importantly, to encourage you. You know, Lisa and I talk a lot about our, you know, how do we manage our businesses? And she might say, well, I'm going to write a blog today, or I'm going to do a blog series. And I might check in with her periodically and say, how's that going? That's all she's asking for. She's not asking me how to do it. She's not keeping, you know, but it's someone to kind of be accountable. So we're accountable to each other on a variety of different things. Next. So this kind of falls in line a little bit with Lisa too, in terms of reflecting and reevaluating. You got to find the time to reflect. And the problem is most of us have to-do lists. And what do? Once we check off the thing, we go on to the next thing. So when you clean that kitchen floor, do you stop and say, woohoo, I've cleaned the kitchen floor, yay, yay, yay? No, we move on to the next item. Maybe if you stopped and celebrated in some fashion that you did that, you're more inclined, one, to do it again, because you're gonna have to clean the kitchen floor probably a few days later. But more importantly, it gives you like a sense of accomplishment. And when we have a long laundry list of things to do and don't stop ourselves from doing that, we really don't make, you know, validate what we have accomplished. The other thing is that you have to, again, have reflection time. I keep stressing this, but the problem is that it's like exercising too. Do you put that in your calendar? And that's what you should consider. You should consider blocking time every week. Maybe it's an hour on like a Thursday. If you evaluate your work schedule, you might find pockets where you can do that. So as an example, for some crazy reason, Wednesday afternoons when I'm, you know, doing heavy duty recruiting, I figured out that my phones never rang. I could call people and reach people, but Wednesday afternoons, for some crazy reason, people didn't call me. So I would go off to the gym from 12 to 1. My staff would know I was gone, but nobody else did. And because I work from my home, no one knew I was in sweatpants. And then maybe I have a quick lunch, and then maybe at like 1:30 to 2:30, I would do what I call reflection time. Figure out what's working, what's not working, and go from there. And during that time, I would tell friends, family, my mother, everybody, leave me alone. So I blocked that time off. One 60-minute segment over a period of a week is not a lot of time. Don't do it in the shower. Focus on the shower. This is different than what I'm talking about here. And it says too that if you let your mind wander and have that time, you will actually be more creative and you'll be more productive. That's why you have to get up from your desk every hour, even if it's to walk around your office for 2 seconds or go outside for a minute, checking the mail. I'm a big fan. As soon as I hear the mail lady, I go off and check the mail. Just it's something to do and it clears my head. Because it's like an engine, a car engine. If you keep running it and running it and running it, eventually it's going to die out. So you need those breaks. Then you reevaluate what's working, what's not working. How do I change that? Maybe I need to reach out to someone because I don't know how to change it. And then Lisa, switch to the next slide, please. So the last piece is rewards. Again, maybe you won't stand in your kitchen and go, woohoo, I finished the kitchen floor. But you do need to set rewards. And the thing is that a lot of people think the ultimate reward is finishing the goal. And that is true. But if it's especially a long-term goal, maybe you're looking to get a promotion, or you're working on a project, or you want to do a new marketing strategy for your own business, whatever it may be. Or right now we're in the end of the semester at Bryant where I teach, they're on their final leg before, final projects and exams. You've got to have many rewards along the way, and everyone's is going to be different. So what I talk about is the gold star. So think about when you were a child and you got that gold star. How did you feel? And every time I mention the gold star, everyone smiles, right? We all felt great when we got that gold star. So the point I'm trying to make is what's your gold star? So as an example, I had a client that was looking to get into the family business, but at the moment she was a waitress and she was doing a double shift, which is, I used to waitress many years ago. It's not easy. So I said to her, what's the reward you're going to get after you finish the double shift? She goes, oh, I don't know. And I said, well, what do you like? She goes, I like mashed potatoes. I said, okay. So before you go to work, go grab yourself some mashed potatoes, put them in the fridge. So when you get home at night, you have something to look forward to. So part of me working with her was to get her into an online college program, and then also to get her into the family business. So I happened to be in the supermarket the day that she got accepted into an online college program. So so she sent me a text message, and I was so excited for her. So I ended up sending her a box of mashed potatoes and four real potatoes. And it's been kind of a standing joke since. But the point is that we all need something to look forward to, like that glass of wine on Friday night, or a virtual cocktail party, or whatever we're doing. So you really have to think about, putting in the rewards as you develop your plan. So if you're going to run a marathon, maybe at the 3 mile, you're running 3 miles every day for 5 days, maybe you go get yourself a mani-pedi, or at the 6 mile mark, you buy yourself a new pair of sneakers, or whatever it may be. So having those little rewards along the way is very important. The other thing is we mentioned before, is that this is, springtime. It's a time of rebirth. So things are coming out of the ground. Everything's growing. It's looking really good. And we feel, really good at this point, especially when a beautiful day like today. So we want to achieve fulfillment. That is the key piece to all that we do. But to do all of that, we need to clean out our physical and our mental closets. And it's a process, as I said. And so you have to think about being committed and rewarding yourself. And I can guarantee you, and I think Lisa's shaking her head, yes, I think you can accomplish everything you set out to do. So at this point, Lori, we'll take questions if there are any.
Okay, so put your questions in the chat box. We want to hear from you. Kathy gives us some fabulous feedback. She says, fantastic tips from both Lisa and Beth. Really love this. Patty Nolan, she agrees. She says, I feel very energized for acting on what has been presented. Very grateful to be able to participate in such an uplifting presentation. Thank you. Stephanie says, thanks, this was great. So obviously our audience is really enjoying the content that you are putting forth. I have a question for both of you. Each of you talked about, you had a common theme of, living in the past, and how living in the past can challenge you, both, from removing the physical clutter from your closet, but also in terms of being able to reimagine or think of a new way of living, maybe some dreams or some inspiration. that somebody is, you know, always wanted to do something. So my question is, both of you, where would you look? Where would you advise your clients to look for inspiration if somebody's really itching for a change?
Well, I think that inspiration can come from anything. I know of people, I've done this myself, you know, for a weight loss goal. I've taken a picture of myself at a much thinner circumstance in my life and stuck it on the fridge. A vision board is that Beth mentioned, vision boards is a terrific inspiration. I did a vision board myself a few years ago with some goals that I set for myself. Not all of them were SMART goals, as Beth said, so not all of them came about, but enough of them did that I had a visual reference. I hung it up right in my office, right next to my desk, and it was something that inspired me regularly. Reminder on a regular basis. I have some clients who have tacked up right over the desk of this is my SMART goal, one goal, and outlining what's going to happen, what I want to do, how I'm going to do it, when I'm going to do it by. And as Beth said, the actual writing of that goal is much more effective than just either having it in your head or typing it out on your computer. So I think a lot of visual inspiration, keeping a pair of jeans that didn't fit, you know, aren't fitting, but did fit, but not keeping 15 pairs of jeans, just keeping one, your favorite, as an inspiration, that kind of thing. Beth?
I think the other thing is a creative element. I'm a real, well, first of all, I'm a DIYer. I do lots of things around my house. I paint, I do gardening and all of that. And I get some really interesting ideas that way. I'm also a scrapbooker. But the other thing is that I get inspiration from being around maybe different people. So I used to live in Fairfield, Connecticut. I moved to Rhode Island 7 years ago, and we had a very big beach. And I would go down the beach at like 7:30 in the morning, and there'd be a few fishermen there. It'd be some fathers, usually with some young children, so the wife could sleep in, you know. And I used to collect sea glass. And I would chit chat, you know, there'd be maybe 10 people on a half-a-mile beach. And I'm not kidding, this was a big beach. And people would, you know, we'd chit chat about different things. And I wrote a blog about how to run your business like a fisherman. One woman came up to me and said, you know, I notice you're picking up things. What are you picking up? And I talked to her about sea glass and stuff. And I wrote a blog about her. So being around different people sometimes, because we do kind of get stuck in a rut to some extent, can be very inspiring. Or going to a different place. You know, my mother she's older and she's, you know, kind of stuck in the house because of the pandemic. And, you know, she drives to places she doesn't normally drive and she sits in the parking lot, but it gives her inspiration. So I think trying out different things, even surprisingly, even using a different color pen. Like, I'm not a big fan of grading. I just can't, you know, I love to teach, but grading is just not my thing. And a friend of mine gave me, she had a purple pen. She's another professor. And she goes, here, I'll give it to you. So grading with the purple pen now makes it better. I don't know why it makes it better in the true sense of the word, but I think because it came from her and we're very good friends. And I think of her in a positive light. But just getting out of that, you know, like box that we're in. I know I'm tired of using the term get, you know, out of the box thinking, but more importantly, being with different people. I went to an event once. I wasn't in the best of moods. This was when I was still living in Connecticut. It'd been a long day. The last thing I wanted to go was a networking event. And I went to the event and one woman came up to me and said, oh, weren't you the one who chaperoned a trip to Disney, which I had for my son for high school. And I got 8 freshman girls somehow instead of, I thought I'd have my son. And long story short, I just started meeting different people throughout the course of the night. And I went up to the woman after and I said, I have to tell you, I wasn't in the best of moods when I came. But I met such amazing people that night. I just felt great. I literally felt like I flew home. Like I was like on a magic carpet and just flew home. And the whole thing changed. So I think sometimes we need to, you know, get out of our comfort zone a little bit, even if it's to go with an adult coloring book down to a coffee shop, you know, but having that creative element and meeting new people, even if it's just one person, can make a difference. I mean, I learned from my grandmother a long time ago that you can learn from every single person that you meet. Sometimes you learn things not to do. And I had a boss that I can definitely agree with that on. But I also learned a lot from every person I meet, how to, behave, or what they were doing, or all of that. And it just inspires me because we really have such amazing people out there. And sometimes it's the little guy that you really don't think of. But they're doing something like a fisherman that just, gets you to, think differently.
So we have probably at least a couple of more weeks here in quarantine. So what would each of you suggest to folks that are, that want to take some of your words to heart, and what would you suggest to them as first steps while we're still at home and being quiet and being isolated from one another?
Well, I would suggest that you just choose one spot in your home. And I'm assuming you're all at home for the most part now. I would say just choose one area. And there are two schools of thought on that. My initial thought is to say, pick the area that drives you the most crazy. Pick the area that has the most negative effect on your life, and take some time to go through every single item, every possession that you have in that area. Make that decision of, do I need it? Do I use it? Do I love it? And if get rid of the excess that's holding you back, stuff maybe from the past, stuff you're not using anymore, stuff you don't love. At this point, it is hard to find places to donate things. Obviously, things are closed. But I'm suggesting to people that you box it up, label it very clearly, donations, put today's date on it, whatever date it is, so you know how long it's been there, and select a corner, maybe of the garage or of your house, if there's a spare room or a corner, and at least you will have cleared out your space so it's more functional. Now, the other school of thought is, if you're choosing a space that's driving you crazy, but it might be overwhelming for you to start and you're not sure where to start, then start small. Let's say the space is your kitchen. Pick one drawer. One drawer. The junk drawer is a good place to start. Everybody has at least one junk drawer, and there's nothing wrong with having a junk drawer. But if you can't find what you're looking for and you're pawing through it on a regular basis, it may be a minor source of frustration. So pick one drawer. Or if you're stuck in your home office, pick 3 file folders from your filing cabinet, or maybe the first half of a drawer. Don't try to go through 8 filing cabinet drawers in one day. You're gonna, it's an automatic invitation to be frustrated and to fail. Choose a small portion, start small, and the sense of accomplishment that you get when you've done one thing well. I don't know whether anybody remembers the speech that Admiral William McRaven gave at UT Texas University of Texas at Austin. And he's a former Navy SEAL, and he's talking about how to change the world. And the first thing he said was, if you want to change the world, make your bed every morning. And sometimes people get a little bristly when I say that, because it feels like mom is telling them what to do. But that's not the point. The point is, start with one small thing that you've made a commitment to that will make a small difference in your day, and keep piling up those small things one on top of the other. And eventually you end up with a lot of big things. So that kind of, for me, is the philosophy of start with what you think you can handle a little bit at a time. Set a timer. Don't do it for more than a half an hour. You'll make it. You probably can if you've got kids at home and you're trying to do work and help them with their work and all of that. But start small, little things. Make your bed every morning. That's the mom part.
So, and in terms of, your business or your career, reach out to maybe 3 people a day. And that could be handwritten notes. I sent out a bunch one Friday afternoon. I sat down and I wrote out a bunch of notes. The other thing I've done, actually, right before this call, I was cleaning out some stuff in my office. And I came across some names of people that, I had met at an event, and I kept up with a little bit, but not as well as I could have. So I sent them an email just before I got on today, and I just said, I'm thinking of you. How are you doing? People appreciate that. I mean, the handwritten notes that I sent out, I was dumbfounded how many people really responded well to it. And people remember that. Like at this point, from a business standpoint, or if you're in a corporate environment, is you want to be memorable. And why we remember people is because they've gone out of their way to just say, I'm here for you. And I think that's one thing we've learned from the pandemic is the people that have been here for us. So, and not that you're trying to sell something, and that's the big thing, because we walk a fine line right now. How do we market our business, but also, but not sell something, because people are kind of not in the buying mode at this moment. But just, saying, hey, I'm here for you. I reached out to a client of mine, one of the major insurance companies. She does corporate trainings, but she happens to live in Nashville. And, they had those tornadoes back a few months ago, right before the pandemic. Actually, they had a huge tornado. And I just reached out to her and I said, how are you doing? I saw, someone reminded me about the tornado. Were you okay? Were your family okay? Like that's more important than me selling her, a XYZ package, right? Training program right now. And, it makes me feel good because she responds like, oh, thanks. It was so great to hear from you, and all that made me feel good. It made her feel good. And it kept the relationship going, but more importantly, it grew the relationship. And that's all that matters at this point.
A couple of additional comments in the chat box. Stephanie says, thank you, this was great. I changed my office location as you were speaking to my sunny living room. So that's a great idea, just to have a little sun, makes everyone feel better.
Absolutely.
Enjoying being in the living room, right? All of our spaces now are taking on different meanings, right? I never would have allowed myself to like suddenly start working from my dining room, but that's where I am, and I get the idea, but I like it in the dining room, so I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
So thanks for that, Stephanie. Allison says, I agree with doing do-it-yourself creative stuff. Doing a little project can keep you sane. So yeah, I think the idea of a little project, just like both Beth and Lisa were saying, don't try to cut off or bite off more than you can chew right away, because you'll just get frustrated. But yeah, sort of like build on to those successes. And then we had a question from Kathy. She says, I have many family heirlooms. What can I do with them?
Well, I would suggest thinking very carefully about how all the family heirlooms. It's tough. Family sentimental stuff is probably the hardest stuff to make a decision about. And so what I would suggest is you think about, it's not the item that is important. It's your memory of the person who gave you the item. And memories live in our heads and in our hearts. They don't live in stuff. So I suggest to people that they think about, number one, that memory is not going to go away if I let this tchotchke go. If I let my grandmother's Yadro 100 figurines that have been sitting in a box in a garage because I don't have a place for them in my home, or they're not my taste, they're not something I want. But I think a lot of people feel like if they let family heirlooms go, they are either dishonoring or they're going to lose the memory of the person who left it to them. And so my advice is to think about what that person would be thinking if they knew you kept something that you didn't need or use or want. When people leave us things, sometimes there's a lot of significance. People make it a point of saying, I am going to leave this to you because I knew it was important to you because of this. Or you've always admired this, so I'm going to make sure you have it. Or I'm going to leave this to you because this had a lot of significance to me. But a lot of times, family heirlooms just get left because they're there when the person passes away. And they become sometimes a burden because they're filling up your space with stuff you don't need, use, or want. They might be filling up your attic. They might be filling up your garage. I had a client once upon a time who was in her early 80s. I was helping her set up, she had a fairly prominent position in state government, and I was helping her set up her archives. And conversation turned towards the fact that she still had 2 storage units filled with her parents' stuff. Heard me when I said she was in her 80s, right? You can imagine how long that stuff had been sitting there. But she said, they're family heirlooms. I don't know what to do with them. I would feel guilty letting them go. And I said to her, how do you think your parents would feel if they knew that you had not only kept all this stuff, but paid all this money to store? She'd been storing 2 storage units for 20 years, times every month, times 20 years out. It came out to thousands of dollars. How do you think your fairly frugal parents would feel if they knew that you kept this stuff out of guilt? Would they be happy? And she said, oh no, they'd be really upset with me. So I want people to approach family heirlooms with a couple of attitudes. Number one, don't forget that the memory is in your head and in your heart. It's not in the thing. And number two, how would that family member feel if they knew you were keeping it out of guilt instead of out of joy or pleasure? Mm-hmm. So keep the stuff that really, really, really is significant, and don't be afraid to let the stuff go. Other people in your family may want them. Millennials don't tend to want that stuff. They don't want the brown furniture and the china and all of that. But there are a lot of places out there that it can be donated to, that you can help a family who doesn't have it start a new life with, paying it forward, so to speak. Some of it may be worth taking the time and the effort to sell. Generally, that's a losing proposition, depending on how valuable the thing really is. My advice, when people say, well, I'm going to sell this on eBay or on Craigslist, my advice is to say to them, look up similar things and find out what they've sold for, not what people are asking for them, because it's only worth what someone will pay for it. So don't measure your time and your effort against what you think you're going to get. But, you know, a gift that comes tied tightly with a ribbon of guilt is not really a gift at all. That's what Peter Walsh says. It's a manipulation. So think about that when it comes to letting go of that sentimental clutter.
Mm-hmm. That's really beautiful, Lisa. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So we're at the
question
top.
I answer a lot.
Yeah, you know, I could tell. So we're at the top of the hour. Beth, anything that you would want to leave the group with in terms of closing remarks?
Well, the only thing that I found interesting about Lisa's comment about heirlooms, I recently got some teacups from my cousin, which was my grandmother's, who I never met because she died when my father was very young. And I repurposed them and made them into little flower pots. So I think that's the other thing to think about, even with your goals, is you know, maybe the original goal is not working for you for whatever reason. That's why you have to reevaluate. And so you take that teacup and you turn it into a planter. That's the same kind of thing with repurposing your goals. So I think that ties in very nicely together.
All right. Yeah.
That's so beautiful. Yeah. You can tell you're a do-it-yourselfer.
Yes, I am.
Yes, she is.
Thank God for Pinterest.
All right. I don't see any other questions in the chat box. So I'm going to take this opportunity to thank both of you, Lisa and Beth, for your time and your insights and your honesty, and for challenging us with our limiting beliefs. It was really interesting. And the contact information for both of them is on the screen. So I know everybody will be able to follow up as is appropriate. And in case you're wondering, yes, we did record this webcast, and we will be putting it out to all of you that registered, and also we will put it on our website at provchamber.com. So thanks, everybody. It is 1:03, so let's get busy, everybody. Let's start cleaning out a drawer or doing something very highly productive. Just
clean
for a
out your
couple
brain.
of, you know, while you're inspired, let's all get to it. So Thank you both. And thanks everybody.
Thank you, Lori.
See you
Thanks for
tomorrow.
having us.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.